Good morning, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn this off here. I'll put me on the screen. There we go. And I'll take off the logo. This, and we'll go to we're going to give it a few minutes while wait for people to join us. It's 11:02, so I figure a few more people will probably join us this morning. But how's everybody doing? Your week off to a good start. Hopefully you're finding the module easy to navigate. Everything's working pretty well. I've been getting some more papers graded. I graded a few this morning from Seymour, so those students are starting to get their feedback. Yeah, just throw any questions you have in the chat for me while we wait for a few minutes to see if we get some more people to join us before I start the Kahoot session. Or just let me know you're live. Let me know that you're doing okay. Say hi in the chat. That would be great. Let me know that you're there. And I'll sip coffee and wait for you. $11 people. Hey, Tiffany. How are you? So we're getting a few more people to join us. Good. Hey, Levi. Sydney. Love the emoji. Levi. I need to put some custom emojis in the channel, right? Now that we're like streaming all the time. I need to put some custom. Hey, Dell. What's up, buddy? Amberlynn. Good to see you. Maddie. Hi. Hey, Harley. Oh, better yet, I have to ask you this as we wait to get rolling. 12 people. Hey again. Good to see you again, Austin. Hey, Emily. How is speech going? Let's see, it would be not for the Northview students because they're paired with Prob and Stats. I guess I would ask the question, how are both of those classes going? Your Prob and Stats class and your speech class. Has Mr. Richards lost his mind yet? Or hey, CMX Challenge. I'm not sure who that is, but it's your YouTube tag. But how are you? But yeah, hope your Prob and Stats class and hey, Chance. Yeah, I hope your Prob and Stats class and or speech class is going well. I wonder if you guys are like YouTubing your speeches. Is that how you're turning them in? I'm just curious. I haven't talked to Mr. Richards since all this started, but I hope he's doing okay. 13 people. All right. Give it a few more minutes and then we'll get the Kahoot started. Hey, everyone, see, I added this late yesterday to the module. So if you checked it early yesterday morning, you might have missed this. I did add a review sheet to the module for the exam also. So this session will help you. The review sheet should help you, and you should be all prepared to take the test. Now, some of you are seniors, right, in the group with me, and the group speech was canceled. Oh, I see. So did that relieve a little bit of stress on you, Dell? That he kind of modified it a bit. Hopefully so. Yeah, I bet so. But back to what I was saying earlier. If some of you are seniors and you are planning to attend Walter State in the fall, or really any school in the fall, it wouldn't have to be Walter State, but Walter State's just fresh in my mind because yesterday was the first day you could register for classes at Walter State for the summer and the fall semester. So I had this kind of mad scramble of students that I typically see on the campus, like sending me emails yesterday going, I need to get cleared to register, because the way we have our system set up, you have to get, hey Salima, you have to get cleared to register, for the classes. And so a lot of students were like frantically emailing me yesterday, and they're like, please, I need an advising session. So I did a lot of Google Hangouts yesterday, lots of Google Hangouts all day yesterday, and tried to help students get clear for classes, psychology, sociology, social work majors. That's who I advise. But I hope if you are a senior and you're planning to go to Walter State in the fall, I hope that you have been able to see an advisor. And if you haven't, or you're having trouble, throw me an email and I'll try to get you some resources to help you out with that, because I wouldn't want to see anyone miss their perfect schedule, right? Because those classes fill up, especially those popular ones at certain times. They kind of fill up. All right. It's 11:08. I'm going to go ahead and start our Kahoot here. I'm going to turn off my camera because I think last time I blocked some of the answers, so I don't want to do that. What? Yeah, that's just what we want to do. Never seen that option before. All right, let me kill my camera here real quick. There, I should be gone. Yeah, we're going to do a classic. All right. You guys can even hear the cheeky music in the background, hopefully. You should be able to. So you should feel like we're back in the classroom. Oh, let me look at this. Hold on. Where did I set these? I'm just looking at something real quick while you guys join about how many seconds I set. 20 seconds. We'll try it with 20 seconds. Last time I made it like 40 seconds, I think, and it was way too long. So we'll see how it goes. If after the first question that we'd like crash and burn, I might set it to like 30 seconds to give you guys more time, because there's a little bit of a delay. We'll do a couple questions, and then you guys let me know if you thought it was too fast. We got 9 people in, and we got 13 people watching, so we might have a few people who don't want to play. Who maybe just want to watch, but I'm kind of giving you guys a warning if you're sitting there like trying to, we lost a player. If you're sitting there trying to join the game, you got about another minute and then I'm going to start the game. I want to do something. I want to see how delayed this is. Hold on. Listening to the other laptop that I'm monitoring chat with. Let's see here. I'll find out about how delayed this is. No, I'll find out about how delayed this is. Oh, you hear it. It's not that bad. No, I'll find out about how delayed this is. Oh, you hear it. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. We can deal with that. All right. 9 players. I think that's all we got. It's 9 players. So we're going to go ahead and start the game and see how you guys do. Here we go. Let me maximize, get full screen. Hopefully that... Oh, let me hide this. Hold on. Do you think that... Yeah, that little graphic up on the left-hand side might screw us up too. Let me... get the thumbnail hidden. Oh no! I just kicked somebody out of the game. Sorry. I was thinking it was you, Amberlynn. I'm so sorry. I clicked on your name and I struck it down. Please join the game again. I'm so sorry. I did not mean to do that. Please come back. I'm going to give you a second to come back. Terry being vicious. Oh, there you are. I see you back again. Okay, cool. Sorry, Amberlynn. All right, maximizing and starting. I think we're going to be good with 20 seconds. Here we go. All right, so it looks like we're kind of spread all over the place. Cognition includes all of those things. That chapter, chapter 7, looks at language and it looks at problem solving. I think some of you are like, hold on. Well, yeah, the daydreaming. I think some of you thought, well, daydreaming is from the consciousness chapter, right? So you thought, well, the reason that that couldn't be it because that's from the conscious chapter. Let me ask you something. When you daydream, are you thinking? Yes, you are. When you daydream, you are thinking. And if you're thinking, that's cognition. The reason reflexive actions is the best answer here is because that's from the behaviorist chapter. Remember classical conditioning? When you reflexively respond to a hot surface with your hand, you don't think about it. You don't have time to think about it. It's a reflexive response. It's not something you think about. So that would be the best choice of it not being something cognition. So how did that feel in terms of time? Not everyone answered, so I'm worried. Did you feel rushed? Or do you think we can keep rolling with 20 seconds? Throw it in the chat for me. Say, keep rolling, Terry, at 20 seconds. Or no, let's reset it to more time per question. I need a vote in the chat. Official. Go. Tiffany says, keep going. Got one vote. Okay. Levi says 20 seconds seems good. Okay, cool. I'm waiting for one more vote and then we're rolling. If I get a third of you saying that it's good, I'm going to keep rolling. And Maddie says it was okay. All right. Let's roll. Next question. Here we go. Very good. Yeah. The 3 basic forms of thought are images, concepts, language. That was like battered home all day long in chapter 7. So good job. Nobody missed it. Excellent. Salima in the lead. Harley, Tiffany, Austin, Emily. Nice. Very good. All right. Since you guys are so awesome in the chat thread on here, tell me this is from the human development chapter, right? Tell me the approximate age this happens. I'm just curious if anyone knows. What age does this happen? Object permanence. Throw it in the chat. I'll see what you remember. It couldn't be concrete permanence because that's not really a thing. Permanent conservation's not a thing. Concrete objectivity's not a thing. Object permanence is when, again, humans... Well, it's been recently revealed that dogs actually have object permanence as well. You could take a ball play fetch with a dog, roll the ball under the couch, and your dog will nearly tear your couch apart, right? Trying to get to that ball or bone or whatever food you throw underneath there. Because why? They can still think and imagine, visualize what the object looks like, even though they can't see it. 5 to 7, Tiffany says. Years or months, Tiffany? Just curious, to be specific. You're on 6. Yeah, about 6 to 9 months. 6 to 9 months. You'll see an infant child certainly around 9 months of age, begin to develop this where, like I never got to tell you guys the story in class, but or maybe I did in the stream. I would always put my daughter on my lap, my oldest daughter, and I would watch football, and I would sit there and hit the remote control. And that's why I was convinced women were put on the earth to take the remote control away from men, because my daughter would grab for the remote all the time. And I would take it when she was 5 months old, and I would just cover it up with I would just cover it with a piece of cloth or a napkin, and all of a sudden, boom, she stops crying. No more crying, because it's not there anymore. She can't permanently represent that object in her mind. But by 9 months, by the end of football season, when the Super Bowl came around, that trick didn't work anymore. I could cover it, and she would still cry, because she had object permanence. She still could think about the controller and me not giving it to her, and she would cry until I gave it to her. Yeah. All right. Salima's still in the lead, commanding lead too. Next question. Wow, you guys are all over it. Okay, for some bonus points, tell me which parenting style would typically have kids who are resilient and use positive coping skills. Throw it in the chat. Tell me which one. There are 3. Tell me which one would have it if that's false. Maddie says authoritative. Amberlyn, authoritative. Man, you guys are good. That's exactly right. Authoritative, remember, in the overly permissive, like your best friend, to the point where parents allow you to engage in self-destructive behaviors. On the other end, you have on the other end of the continuum, you have authoritarian parents. They're like, do it because I said so, don't question me. If you do something wrong, I want to punish you. There's no communication, openness for love and understanding. And in the middle of those, you have, as you guys are saying, authoritative parents that set reasonable boundaries. They may use punishment, they may not, but certainly they would never admonish you for asking why you got punished. So why am I grounded? And they would sit down and have a conversation with you about that. Rather than tell you, because I said so, damn it, don't question me. That being authoritarian. Or never punish you at all and let you continue self-destructive behavior as an overly permissive parent. You guys are good. Yeah, definitely authoritative parents have children that typically have high resilience and use positive coping skills. All right. Salima just killing it today. From the motivation chapter, motives can be divided into 3 basic categories. Okay, good. For the 3 of you did nail it. You have biological motives, that being things like what? Food, water, sex. Biological. Then you have stimulus motives, like I talked in the lecture the other day about riding a roller coaster. You're motivated to get on a roller coaster because of the arousal that it fosters, the stimulus that it fosters, right? You're motivated to do certain things because of the stimulus that's associated with it. Usually, think of positive reinforcement, right? Or negative reinforcement, that you remove an aversive condition and you're more likely to showcase that behavior, more motivated to do that. Learned is different, right? A lot of us have motives we weren't born with. For example, I've noticed, in my 14 years living in East Tennessee, that a lot of high school students have learned motivation to love the University of Tennessee. Go Vols. Vol for life. VFL. Hashtag VFL. That, you weren't born with that motivation. You learned that motivation to be a Vol fan, or maybe to want to attend the University of Tennessee from people around you. So 3 basic categories: biological, then stimulus motives. Like, think about, some of you, we talked a bit about this too, curiosity. Some of you will be motivated to do things because you are curious, and that curiosity stimulates your motivation to pursue those goals. And learn, as I mentioned earlier, you're not born with it, pick it up. Selima's not just leading, she's on fire. Way to go, Selima. All right, next. All right. So, this one's a little unfair, I think. So let's break this down while you're all over the place here. So, is motivation an internal deficiency that energizes behavior? No, that's not motivation. That is what? A need. Remember the need drive model we looked at? Right? That's a need. That's part of motivation, but that's a need you have. Blue. The goals which reward our behavior and maintain our behavior. That's what you're chasing often in motivation, but that's the goal. That's not all of motivation. That's a rather narrowed view of it. The goal is only part of the puzzle. There still has to be, let's back up to what the first answer was, an internal deficiency or a need. Goals and needs don't necessarily define motivation as a whole. And let's look at the green one. Needs associated with impulses for self-actualization. Well, if you're talking about, sorry, Cody, is it struggling? Sorry, buddy. The needs associated with impulses of self-control for self-actualization. That is even a more narrow definition of motivation from one particular school of thought. That would be what? Humanistic version of motivation. But don't forget, different theories have different explanations. That chapter talked about a cognitive view of motivation. It talked about a biological view of motivation. It talked about a humanistic view of motivation. So there are different theories to explain motivation. That's just one of them. The best, most broad definition we can use is mechanisms that initiate, maintain, direct, and eventually end behavior. Why do you start something? Why do you keep doing something? What's the goal, or what are you directed at? And then eventually, why do you stop doing something? That's the best overall broad definition. The reason I said I thought it was a bit unfair is your textbook doesn't include end. But I think that's ridiculous, because how do you define motivation without saying that we end things? Come on. Look at anyone's diet. Do diets end? Inherently they end. That's why they're diets. People often drop diets or stop diets because of something fails in one of those earlier 3 things. They forget why they started it, initiated it. They fail to maintain it, and they have a loss of goal at what they're after. So, Aw, I'm sorry, Salima. You, you lost your fire emoji. I'm sorry. Matt, are you going to stay in the stream? Okay, cool. Yeah, stay with us. Stay with us. All right. Yes, we talked about that in the stream last week. If you attended my little lecture stream over motivation, I spent a lot of time in that video talking about the differences between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Your cat pushed the wrong one? Uh, okay, Salima. No, I'm just kidding. Maybe your cat loves to be up on the keyboard with you. But yeah, back to this. So, the person who answered intrinsic rewards, intrinsic rewards are that come from inside of you. So they're the opposite of extrinsic. The person that answered stimulus motives, yeah, I mean, stimulus motives do come from the outside largely, but extrinsic motivation comes from things more than just motives. What about money? What about title? What about status? What about all those external rewards that you can't just put into a stimulus motive that explains why we're motivated? So obvious external rewards would be extrinsic motivation. Oh, I went through the screen too fast. Sorry, guys. All right. So learned motives, as we talked about earlier, remember we said there's biological, there's stimulus, and there's learned. Learned motives. Think about how, okay, this is very easy to understand. Think about this. For those of you who love Tennessee, the University of Tennessee, where did you learn that motivation? Your family. Right? I doubt many of you, it was a stimulus motive where you're like, you just looked to the power T and you're like, I really like that symbol. That symbol is great. Or you like that particular shade of orange. I mean, that's a pretty loud shade of orange, yes? No offense, but it's a very, very loud shade of orange. How did you arrive at the motivation to want to support the University of Tennessee and be a fan? You did so from your family and friends and social structures around you. So learned motives often involve needs that are social in nature. No more fires. We need to get on an answer streak here. I feel it coming on. Here we go. All right, where did we go wrong here? Like other humanistic psychologists, Maslow believed people. This goes back to chapter 1, guys. Let's think about this for a second. I said to you guys in chapter 1, cognitivists view you as basically like a computer. You take information in, you process data, you can think on your own, you are autonomous, you're self aware. Hold on, make sure. Cognitivists believe you can do all those things I just mentioned. Behaviorists view you as a machine through stimulus and response. Freud viewed you as a lusting person that's controlled by their unconscious mind. And lastly, the humanist believe that you're born actually good, not bad, as Freud would argue. And then you seek to strive to achieve your best and full potential or self-actualize. So humanists believe that when it comes to people's motivation, that they basically strive to achieve their potential because they're basically good. So hopefully that made sense. What did I do here? Let me get back to my chat. There we go. All right, Austin moving up there. Nice. You guys are fast that time. Wow. Okay. So, yes, as we talked about earlier, there's no obvious external reward for one's intrinsic motivation that comes from the inside. It couldn't be, for the one person that said obligations or approval are factors, obligations tend to infer outside of you. You have obligations to someone, to something, and that would mean that would be extrinsic. It comes from the inside. All right, Salima, over the 5,000 mark there. Nice. Back to motivation. Yerkes-Dodson's law and arousal. What does the law say about having optimal performance for simple tasks? Simple tasks. The thing to remember with the Yerkes-Dodson's law is this, guys. You ready? Hold on. You got to see me. Here we go. Webcam. Here we go. You ready? When the task is low in complexity, high arousal. The inverse happens. When the task is high in complexity, low arousal. Let's think about this. I use this example all the time. Let's say high in complexity here, algebra. Arousal level needs to be low. If arousal level is high for a highly complex task, we have a term for that. We call it math anxiety. People don't do well when their arousal is too high with a complex task like algebra. Now, let's take a simple task. Let's say lifting a weight, pushing a weight off your chest. High arousal, low complexity task. The more aroused you are, the more weight you can push. So, Cody, answer your question. Good question. Yeah. How are you doing during this time? I'm doing okay, man. I'm sure you guys are feeling it too. I go to our little podium screen there. It gets a little weird staying in the house all the time. I've been going outside doing some work. I've been planting a garden, planted some tomato plants, and planted some peas, some bell peppers, some hot peppers. What else? Different kind of tomatoes. And so I've been kind of hanging outside. I've been jealous. A lot of my friends have been getting lots of video game time. I haven't. I've been working my butt off, honestly. I've not been able to play many video games like my son, who's been playing like nonstop. So I'm hanging in there. I hope you guys are hanging in there too. I'm sure this is a weird spot for all of you to be in. So I'm hanging in there. I hope you are too, Cody. Hope you're doing well. Salima over the 6,000 point mark. Man, are we going to catch Salima today? It's going to be tough. Levi on the march. Nice. Next question. The bottom screen says generalized idea representing a category of related objects. Generalized idea of representing a category of related objects. I screwed that up. That's my fault. Because I was dumb and didn't kill my webcam and blocked your answer. That's right. That's why a bunch of you missed it, right? Absolutely. Sorry about that. That's why I was reading it to you as loud as I could. I know, Levi, my head was in the way. It wouldn't be the first time my big head got in the way of something. Face cam, yep. I was too slow to react to you guys. Yeah, but remember, this is from the cognition chapter. Concept, this is really important. You guys get this. Concept is an idea representing a category of related objects. So you have concept for lots of objects, things, people, feelings. And as you learn more, what happens? That generalized category gets more and more robust, gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So, sorry about that. Terry's head interrupted. Although Levi's still on fire. Nice. Good. Wow, I was kind of surprised there. Yeah, very good. Let's talk about this for a second. So, there are different theories about how concepts work, and they're represented in your textbook. Algorithms not really relevant here. That's about problem solving, solving a task. So we'll talk about algorithms later in this review. Heuristic also is dealing with problem solving, so not a big deal. The only two plausible answers here are prototype and relational concept. Prototype is, I always use the example. If I said to you, car, that's the concept. And I said, think about a car. What particular car do you think of in your mind? Throw it in the chat if you don't mind me asking. If I said the word car and you think, there's got to be an instance that pops in your brain. What particular car pops into your brain? Throw it in chat. I'm just curious. Levi, do you drive a blue Civic? I'm just curious. I wonder about that. Little blue four-door. Do you drive a blue four-door, Tiffany? Is that a car that you own, that you want to own, or that your parents have? Okay. Usually, when I say car and someone thinks of a car, they often think of the car they drive, or they think of a car that they really want. That it's the prototype. It's like the best example of that particular category for that particular person. So I've said this to my students in Texas when I taught years ago, and this will make you guys laugh, right? I said to them, oh, you had one when you were little, okay. I said to them, think of car and tell me the first thing you said. What if I told you guys a number of people in Texas, when I say that, they say things like Ford F-150, which is a truck. Or they say Chevrolet, 3/4 ton. Or they'll say GMC, Sierra, or something like that. Like they'll say a truck, even though I said, if I said car, because in their mind they're thinking, oh, the vehicle that gets me from point A to point B. So the best prototype for their particular category is not even really a car. Because what separates a car from a truck, right, is the truck has a bed, the car does not. So prototypes are an example of the way we think about how humans form concepts and how they use concepts to interact with the world. Selima still leading. the one word that should have tipped that off to everyone watching this is the word change. Developmental psychology is about the study of change. The way you change physically, the way you change psychosocially or emotionally, and the way you change cognitively. So it starts from the moment you're a blob of cells. That's why the beginning of the chapter talks about DNA, dominant recessive traits, chromosomes, genes, because that's when development starts. And at the very end of the chapter, what did it end with? Kubler-Ross's death, dying, and breathing model. So yeah, it's change from the moment you were conceived as a blob of cells to the moment you take your last breath. The change that goes on through your life physically, cognitively, and emotionally is the focus of the study of developmental psychology. Salima approaching 8,000 points, but Tiffany's catching up. Emily, Levi, Harley. All right. Don't make me call Miss Wilson for a lot of you Northview students. I will tell on you. Yes, genes. Okay, so bit of bonus points here. Can anyone tell me the name of the gene on the Y chromosome that determines a boy being a boy? Here's a hint. It's got 3 letters. It's the 3-letter name of a gene on the Y chromosome. It only functions once in development. One time, 6th week of embryonic development, it functions and it determines a boy being a boy. 3 letters for this particular gene. Any ideas? Throw it in the chat if you remember it, reading in your textbook. And you get like sound effects where I can play like crickets or something sounding. I up my stream game. The guy gene. That's pretty good, Cody. That's very clever. It's wrong, but clever nonetheless. I like it. You're sort of you have 1 letter right. I'll give it to you there. It's called the SRY gene. The SRY gene functions once in a lifetime. 6-week embryonic development. It starts sending out these messages to produce more for the gonads to produce testosterone and become testes, because right, whether you're male or female, everyone's born with gonads. It's just if you are born with an XX sex chromosomes, then what happens? SRY is not there because SRY is only found on the Y gene. So the gonads become ovaries and female sex hormones are produced. If it's a male and they're born with X and a Y chromosome for the sex chromosome pairings, the Y gene, the SRY gene on the Y chromosome activates 6th week of development, churns out these signals. All of a sudden, the gonads start producing testosterone. They become enlarged. They descend, and they become testes, and you get a male. So here we go. Next question. I still think that was really funny, though, Cody. All right, here we go. Okay, let's talk. Let's talk about this. So the reason that A genetic defect is not an answer. Is a genetic defect is caused by genetics, and a teratogen is an external cause of problems. So that those two can't be compatible, right? Let's go to the blue one. A cause of cystic fibrosis and sickle cell anemia. We know that there are genetic origins to both of those problems in development. And so that can't be linked to teratogens or external causes. It can't be all of those because the first two are wrong. Things like alcohol, too much caffeine, too much sugar, even in prenatal development, exposure to toxins, drugs, all of these are teratogens. They're things you put in your body, external of you, that you put in your body, that can cause birth defects. Like, for example, the best one to think of with this is FAS, or fetal alcohol syndrome. That is, if a mother drinks too much alcohol during prenatal development, children are born with facial features that are distorted. They'll be born with withdrawals to not having alcohol because alcohol is being passed to the baby through the placenta. Really adverse effects to the baby's development. That's a teratogen. Anything you put in your body there causes birth defects. Yes, yes, yes. Good job. When you hear the word temperament, you think inherited. And I think I even talked about this in the live stream lecture. If you could, some of you have met actually, maybe even two of my kids, but some of you have definitely met one of my kids. But they are so very different, the three of them, in temperament. What are the temperaments that are, throw it in chat if you remember them in your textbook. There are three. But guess what? I was the same dad, pretty much, though I apologize to my oldest daughter all the time for making mistakes. But essentially was the same guy all three times, and with all three infants. And they are all very different temperaments. It wasn't anything I did as a dad. It was nothing I personally, the way I interacted with the three of them. They're just born that way. They are, if you're thinking to type in chat, let me give you one. Easy. Easy temperament. Easy babies. These babies don't cry very often. They don't need a lot of nurturing. They're laid back. They don't need a lot of contact comfort. They're not really irritable. That was my oldest daughter. Then you have difficult babies. That would be my son. Irritable. Lots of contact comfort. Just difficult to soothe at times. And then my youngest daughter, Faith, she was very much slow to warm up. And, she wasn't she was slightly irritable, but more so kind of shy and reserved. You could sense that early on in her development. And you still see it in her personality to this day. So yeah, slow to warm up, difficult, easy. Three different temperaments that we categorize babies with. Oh, it's getting tight, Salima. Ooh, and Amberlynn is on fire now. Nice. Remember the monkeys? I showed this video in the live stream, I believe. Harlow's monkeys. Contact comfort, absolutely. Absolutely. Remember, he took the monkeys away, one with a wire mother with food, the cheesecloth, soft cloth mother with no food. The baby spent like almost all the day with getting contact comfort. Yep. What are the basic components of emotions? So first, emotions are usually, are discussed in terms of arousal levels, then physiological changes, and then some emotional, what am I saying here? I'm looking at the wrong one. Feelings, physiological changes, and emotional expressions. So there is the subjective feeling, right? When someone says, I love you, or they kiss you, or they hug you, there's a subjective feeling that you get. But I can hook electrodes up to your body, and I can measure things like your blood pressure, your heart rate, your skin conductance, how much you sweat, and I can literally see your body have a physiological change to that emotion. And then lastly, there's the way you express that emotion, right? So think about that. There's a subjective experience, there's a physiological change, and there's the way you behaviorally express that emotion. So we go back to my first example. Someone walks up to you, they give you a hug, they tell you they love you. Internally, the subjective feeling that you have is you probably feel very happy. You feel like you're being loved. Physiologically, what happens? We know that your blood pressure goes down. We know that your skin conductance goes down. We know that your body is, the physiological change lowers arousal because you feel calm. It's very soothing to feel loved. So physiological changes they often go down. The emotional expression you may show typically is your facial expression. Some people, whenever they're given that kind of affection, they'll cry, right? They'll feel so loved, they'll feel so moved about what someone says or how they treat them that they'll have an emotional response. But usually in the face, you definitely see it in people's facial expressions. All right. So I figured some of you might have trouble with this. Here's my suggestion to all of you, since most of you missed this. I linked I linked a video in the Motivation and Emotion module a few weeks ago, or last week, sorry, that shows children on a soccer field and the emotional reaction that parents have to their kids playing sports. I would strongly, you got it right. I'm glad you got it right, Slima. I would strongly suggest you guys watch like towards the end of that film where they compare and contrast Schachter's model with the Cannon Bard, James Ling models. It would help you greatly on this exam. So Schachter's theory, they call it the jukebox theory, actually, because it's got something called cognitive appraisal going on. I can't go into too much detail because it would take forever. We don't have much more time. But when it comes to emotion, is like, what happens first? Do you get aroused? Do you have physiological change in terms of your body being aroused? Do you have physiological change and the subjective feeling? Do they all happen at the same time? But what about cognitive appraisals? What about interpreting that? Like, if I go out and run around the block 100 times, is my arousal high? You bet it is. My heart rate's very high. Is my physiological change noticeable? You bet. How do you know I'm not scared versus just tired from running around? You would know that because of my cognitive appraisal, the way I interpret that. I would not interpret my high heart rate in that setting to be one of fear. I would interpret it as, wow, Terry, you out of shape. But if someone came crashing through my bedroom door in the middle of the night and my heart rate spiked, my blood pressure spiked, and I get all this physiological change. Clearly that's fear. What changed there between those two situations? Cognitive appraisal or the interpretation. So go back and watch that film. It'll help you a lot. Slima just dominating. Here we go. Very good. Yeah, sex is biological. It's pretty open, shut discussion here. Sex is biological. Gender is psychological. Good. No need to even talk about that. You guys got it. Let me add one word to that. Originally designed by. Equipment to measure physiological activity during sex was originally designed by, think history. Only two plausible answers here, right, guys? Skinner and Freud are not plausible answers. I know Freud's theory is largely sexual in nature, but he didn't study sexual activity. The two people that study sexual activity that are mentioned in your sexuality chapter on this answer, possible answers, are Alfred Kinsey, who did a lot of survey research, studying things like orientation, sexual orientation, and then Masters and Johnson, who used video cameras and they recorded people having sex. They started studying sex in the laboratory. So they were one of the first ones to develop some of the earlier physiological activity. Okay, so we need some major clarification here. Kinsey gave surveys to people, and he studied orientation, or who you were attracted to, right? And what he found was that it's actually opposite of what most of you put. That it was not this binary thing of, are you either heterosexual or homosexual, and there's nothing in between. That it absolutely is not what he found. He found that we're all somewhere on a continuum. That we're not these purely heterosexual or homosexual oriented people like we think we are. And I know that makes some people uncomfortable when they hear that, they think about that. But I mean, it's been proven in laboratory studies even today. If I were to affix you to arousal level equipment like I showcased in the lecture last week on Tuesday, I did a little lecture during my office hours over sexuality, and I showcased things like a photoplethysmograph, a penile strain gauge, and myographs, all tools to measure arousal. If I show a guy who's I'm purely heterosexual, 100%, right? If I show him a picture of an attractive guy, there should be no physiological change in that guy. But that's not what happens. I'm not saying he becomes so aroused that he gains, for example, an erection or something, but he will have a change in arousal. When a guy sees an attractive guy, even though he's heterosexual, he notices that person. He notices their symmetry. He notices their muscle mass. He notices how attractive they are. And the same thing with females. Even a female says, I'm heterosexual, and I show her an attractive female, picture of an attractive female. You will see a slight uptick in arousal. That means we are not dichotomously either heterosexual or homosexual. I know that makes people uncomfortable, but your body showcases something different. And Kinsey was one of the first people to discover that using surveys. And everyone got real quiet. Right. Good, you got it. Now, type in chat for this right now for me. What sexual characteristic is the vagina? Is it a primary or secondary sexual characteristic? Go. Is it a primary or secondary sexual characteristic? Maddie says primary. Tiffany says primary. And you would both be correct. The other things listed on this screen are secondary. The breast, pubic hair, and menarche, the onset of menstruation, all happen when? At puberty. And the way you differentiate, no matter what question I give you on this exam, asking you about, is this a primary or secondary sexual characteristic? Here's the thing to remember, guys. A, primary sexual characteristic. Were you born with it? Okay. Secondary sexual characteristic, did it show up after or at the onset of puberty? So for males, broadening of shoulders, Adam's apple, pubic hair, all these are secondary sexual characteristics. Primary, penis, scrotum, testes, boom. That's it. Present at birth. So think about that if I throw questions at you guys on this exam about primary and secondary. Last question. Bam. Absolutely. And the key word that should tip you off there is all, because anytime someone says all of any category, all Baptist, all Catholics, all Republicans, all Democrats, that is obviously a stereotype. It's an overgeneralization of a group of people. And in this case, it's a gender stereotype because it's dealing with not sexual characteristics or anatomy, but more like feelings and the psychology of how masculine or feminine in terms of an emotionality someone demonstrates. Our winner, third place, is Emily. Congrats. Second place is Tiff. Wow, you made a big push, Tiffany, at the end. And of course, no surprise, she dominated the entire game. Salima with the gold medal. And of course, we got some runners up. Amberlynn and Adele had runners up there. Very good job, guys. That was a lot of fun. I hope that you got something out of it. I hope it prepares you for the test this week. Remember, it'll be just like the first test. It's timed at 40 minutes. You get one shot. I hope you all do very well. And again, for those Seymour folks in here with me, I'm still plugging away on papers. In fact, I'm hoping to end this exam, get my studio set up for my wife because she's got to meet her students in about 30 minutes, and get back to grading your papers. So do you guys have any questions for me as we kind of wrap up today? Thanks for the 9 of you who hung the whole time with me. We started out with like 14 or 15, but I guess I bored some people and they dropped. Bye, Salima. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for flexing your dominance in the game. Great job. Bye, Emberlyn. Thanks for coming out. Hey, you guys work hard this week. You got spring break next week, right? And you have nothing to do next week. No tasks, no reading quiz, no nothing. So work hard, finish this week off, maybe finish early, knock it out over the next couple of days, and then just chillax for a week and a half. That would be my recommendation to you. Okay. I'm not seeing any more questions. So, as I always say, until the next time, my beautiful students, I will see you on the next stream. Oh, hey! Happy birthday to your brother, Tiffany. Hope he has. Sorry, he's got to be trapped, but in the house. But I hope he has a good birthday. You guys take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Stay healthy. We'll see you next week for the streams. You can always reach me via email. And next week. I just contradicted myself. You won't see me next week, but you'll see me the following week. Anyways, you guys have a good week, and we'll catch you next time. Bye, guys.